Hello listeners, welcome back to Luke's English podcast. Here we are, it's new episode time after a bit of a delay since the last episode I uploaded. Has it been 2 or 3 weeks? It's been a long time. It feels like a long time anyway, but here we are. I have uploaded a couple of premium episodes, by the way, in that period, as premium Lepsters will know. But here we go, new episode time, and this one is episode number 749, and it's all about the Luke's English Podcast design competition, and we will be choosing the winners, so you're going to find out the winners of the competition. But this is not just about choosing the winners, this episode. There's a lot more going on here, and there is certainly a lot of good language that you could notice. Okay, so the language that you could notice here that you should try and listen out for includes two things, really. First of all, language that James and I, that's James, my brother, who is joining me today, the language that James and I use to describe the designs, and we describe them in quite a lot of detail. So specific language for describing designs. The second thing is the kind of language that we use to give our feedback. Okay, now we can't choose all of these designs for the merchandise store. We can only choose, a few. So most of the people are going to be rejected. Most of the entries will be rejected. So listen out for the ways in which James and I use language in a diplomatic way, or ways in which we use hedging to soften our feedback so that we can give essentially negative responses or negative feedback, but in a nice way, without hurting the feelings of the people who we are rejecting. Okay, now that's a complicated area of language. You can call it diplomatic language or hedging. It's a very important part of English, but it's a bit complicated. So all I'll say at this point is just try and listen out for the ways we use language to give our feedback, both positive and negative. Okay, I'll talk a bit more at the very end of this episode about specifically what I mean regarding hedging and diplomatic language to make it a bit clearer. So that's going to be in about 90 minutes, because the conversation is about 90 minutes, the length of a football match, I would say, something like that. So you will hear my comments again at the end, and I'll go into some more specific details about hedging and diplomatic language. You will find time codes in the episode show notes. Okay. I hope you enjoy it. It's a fun one. Let's get started. Here's the jingle. You're listening to Luke's English Podcast. For more information, visit teacherluke.co.uk. Hello, listeners. Welcome to the podcast. I hope everything is well in LEPland, in all parts of LEPland, as you listen to this. So, welcome back. In this episode, the plan is to pick the winner or winners of the Luke's English Podcast design competition, and you're going to hear James and me actually judging the entries on the podcast in this episode and picking our winner or possibly winners. And James is with me, and we're currently sitting in his flat in London. Hello, James.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm well, thanks. Had my teeth cleaned earlier.
You had your teeth cleaned?
So I've got very clean teeth for once. A very rare thing, to be honest.
How does it feel to have very clean teeth?
It feels good.
Yeah. I expect so.
My teeth feel a bit strange texture-wise.
What's the texture?
It's actually not that bad. Probably clean, I suppose.
Smooth?
Yeah, smooth, exhilarating. No, they feel slightly rough in places and smoother in others, but they're not bad. They're not bad.
How was it actually going to the dentist?
Pretty unpleasant.
Why?
It's just a weird thing, isn't it? It tips you almost upside down.
Mm-hmm.
The guy was very nice, but he's just like shoving stuff into your mouth and sucking your saliva out with a little tube, and it's just quite gross, really, isn't it?
Did that saliva tube sucker thing, did it get stuck to your tongue at any
No,
point?
nothing like that.
Okay.
But it was all right. It was fine. I can't complain. I can't really complain.
Was it painful at all?
Borderline, but I was expecting it to be more painful.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of bits were a bit painful, but not proper like injection and gouging sort of pain.
Yeah, you haven't been injected, because that would be weird if you were doing the podcast having been injected. You'd be like, "Ugh." Like
even more than I am anyway. Yeah, well, I was injected.
Yeah. Oh, that's your excuse.
Yeah.
This time. Okay, so if James starts slurring his words or falling asleep at any point, it's because he's been injected.
I wasn't really, though.
He wasn't actually. I'm sure you're gonna be fine. But it's nice to have clean teeth, isn't it? Lovely, shiny, clean teeth. Do you feel more confident as a result? Do you feel like going out and smiling at people?
No.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, but it's good. Do you recommend it, having your teeth cleaned like that then?
Yeah, I mean, everyone around the world are thinking, he's English. Of course he's got bad teeth.
Yeah, is that
my teeth are all right, actually.
Yeah, your teeth are good. They just needed a little bit of a clean.
Just slightly heavily tea stained.
Lots of tea, too much drinking tea.
Endless tea.
Yeah.
Since the age of about 10 onwards, basically.
Endless tea, endlessly.
Endless tea.
Endlessly. It's like an Oasis song.
Yeah.
Could be. All right then. Well, so are you ready to become a judge then now for the podcast designs?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we're here with our judges' hats on, although they're more like sort of wigs, really.
More like a long white wig, long white hat.
You can imagine us in our full regalia, the whole judges' outfits, sitting behind a large wooden desk with hammers and stuff. You know?
That's more like a sort of court of law, though. This is more a judging panel of,
Simon Cowell.
Yeah, that kind of thing. X Factor.
Are you going to be like Simon Cowell for this, or?
Yeah, I'm going to be a bit of a bastard.
Listeners, if you don't know, Simon Cowell is one of those judges on talent shows like Britain's Got Talent or The X Factor. And yeah, he's a bastard, isn't he? That's his kind of unique selling point, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of the kind of pantomime villain, basically.
Yeah, exactly. But a British guy who's not afraid to give his negative feedback.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do that, really, because these are nice people.
Exactly, they're good people.
And I'm a good person. I try to be anyway.
Everyone's a good person in LEPland. That's the idea, right? So, listeners, we have James. We have 18 entries here. Now, I haven't been that selective. I thought that originally we would sort of make a short list out of those, but we're going to blast through all 18 of them.
Every single one you got.
Yeah, because even the ones that I think are definitely not going to make it into the store, I feel are sort of worth mentioning, and I feel like there's 18, stuff to say about all of them.
18's not that many, though. I kind of expected you to get more.
Yeah, well, this was a very specific competition.
It was, and it hasn't been running for that long, and a lot of people are still catching up with the old episodes,
exactly.
Right?
And plus, I didn't mention it that many times after launching it.
Right.
So it might have sort of like...
slipped through the net
kind of thing. But anyway, I think 18 is good. And we've definitely got something here that I think could end up being on a T-shirt or a mug. Okay, so the plan is, listeners, to choose one or possibly two entries to go into the LEP merch store, and any winners will receive £80 as well. So here's the plan. James and I are going to consider each entry, give our comments, both positive and negative, and then choose our winner or winners. And you might be thinking, listeners, how can you see the designs while we are describing them? Obviously, you'll want to actually see the images that we're talking about, and that will make the experience of listening to this episode much better. Even if you can't see the images, we will describe them in as much detail as possible, and there'll be all that sort of descriptive language coming in there as well. But it would be good if you could actually see them too. So the most convenient way for podcast listeners is for me to put the designs into the show notes, so that when you're listening to your podcast episode on your podcast player, you can just kind of like look at the notes, scroll down, and you should see the images. So I'm going to try and put them into the podcast show notes, but this won't work for all the podcast players. And most people will be listening using the native iOS podcasts app on an iPhone. That's most people. And unfortunately, iTunes doesn't let me embed images into the show notes, but most other podcast apps will allow it. So check the show notes for this episode in your podcast player. You might see all of the images there. We'll see. If you're watching this on YouTube, you should be able to see each design on the screen as we're talking, although this isn't a full video version, so you can't actually see James and me talking. You can't actually see James's amazing, brilliant white teeth unfortunately, although I might add an image. But anyway, I will add some visuals to the YouTube version, okay? It's not just going to be one image. The image will change from time to time, and you will be able to see each design one by one. So YouTube viewers will see them on the screen. Otherwise, you can just go to the page for this episode on my website, and you'll be able to see all of the designs and images that we're talking about there. So in any case, the page for this episode on the website is where you can go. I've come up with some criteria, judging criteria, which we may forget about, but we'll see. So here are some judging criteria for the images. First of all, there should be some sort of LEP connection. Something that relates specifically to this podcast, or something that I often say on the podcast, that sort of thing. So there's got to be a clear and coherent LEP connection there. Secondly, visual appeal. So it just means, is this the kind of thing that people might want to wear on a t-shirt? So just basic visual appeal. Artistic merit. So this basically means sort of like the level of skill or effort involved in making the image, as far as we can tell. And then just the fourth category is just subjective taste or opinion, and that's just the judge's prerogative, which basically means just our own general taste.
Just gut instinct.
Yeah, exactly. English, right? Now, in terms of English, vocab and so on, this will be full of descriptive language, as I said, as we describe the designs. So watch out for that. Also, watch out for the ways in which we give our positive and negative feedback. Unfortunately, James and I are going to have to reject the majority of these designs, which means that we're going to have to criticise and pass judgments and explain why we're not choosing most of these things. So let's see how we word our comments in order to make sure that we're not disappointing anyone too much, because we don't want to do that, do we? Don't want to disappoint people.
Or even upset people.
Or offend people. Heaven forbid. Right, so we're going to go through the designs in chronological order. So, right, listeners, so that's just, in the order that they arrived in my inbox. Okay, James? So should we start with the first one?
Yes.
This one is Iwona. Now, I'm not sure where, and I've probably pronounced that wrong, as I will most names, but I'm not sure where she's from, but she is a regular commenter. She often comments on episodes.
Props for that.
So, James, do you want to have a go at just describing the image, first of all?
Okay, it's a sort of blue gradient rectangle, and in
gradient,
sort of fading from dark to light.
Yeah, the colour is sort of like a blue, and it's light blue at the top and dark blue at the bottom, and it fades in. So
in a fairly sort of workaday sans serif font,
nondescript, I would say even generic font that you might find in the average sort of word processing application.
Well, possibly. Let's just say it's a sort of, it's a standard sans serif font.
Okay.
It says, "We're going to have a good time."
We're going to have a good time.
I like the sentiment. It reminds me, first of all, of Birthday by the Beatles.
They say it's your birthday. We're going to have a good time.
I wonder if that's intentional. I like the sentiment. There's no LEP mentioned, I'm afraid.
That's right.
So it's not a great advert for Luke's podcast.
Yeah.
But I like the general attitude.
I do. I like the general. We're going to have a good time. Yeah. I appreciate the sentiment too. But to go through the criteria, for the LEP connection, I'm afraid is not there.
0 point.
Because, this is not something that I often say, let's be honest. In fact, I don't know if I've ever said it on the podcast.
It must be to do that Beatles song.
It's got to be the Beatles, right? We're going to have a good time. I think so.
Yeah.
But that's not clear either. There's no reference to, there's no actual imagery here at all. But not sure there's an LEP connection. I wonder how much time went into it. Maybe Iwona spent a long time on it, but I don't know. In terms of artistry and stuff, there's no illustration involved in it. So I'm afraid that you sort of drop a few points there as well. We were talking about this before. I say that I kind of frown on writing the word gonna, Gonna. I sort of frown on that, but what do you think?
I think that since it's a colloquial phrase or a song lyric, we're gonna is perfectly acceptable in a song lyric.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to write it down as we're going to have a good time if that's not what he sings, because he says we're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, it's not. They say it's your birthday. We're going to have a good time.
That wouldn't work.
That would be kind of rubbish.
It's not rock and roll.
It's just not rock and roll enough. Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with gonna.
I also think it's. I guess the problem I have with gonna is when I see people writing it and they don't include the verb be before it. So if it was just we gonna have a good time, then that would really sort of it would really trigger my grammar sort of nerd side.
Okay.
But this is we are gonna have a good time. So okay, but I'm afraid I think we're not going to include. This is not going to go into the merch store, is it though? For the reasons given,
it's a no from me, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
but thanks for taking part.
That's a very sort of Simon Cowell. It's a no from me. That's quite a Simon Cowell thing to say.
But thanks for coming, and hope you didn't mind the coach trip down.
Yeah. Sorry for having to wait in the waiting area with all the other competitors. But, I mean, on a positive note, I should say that Iwona is a regular commenter.
Yeah, that's good. You get points for that, definitely.
And she's not a ninja in any way. And I think this is evidence of her dedication to her non-ninja-ness.
Excellent. So it's a kind of throwing your hat in the ring. We appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly. You threw your hat in the ring. Basically, well done for taking part.
Yeah, not a gold star, but
you get
star,
one of those,
some kind of star, maybe a pink one, or
participation award.
Yeah, bronze, not even a bronze actually.
Just a sort
of a really low base metal,
like a sort of tin.
Yeah, you get a tin star.
Okay,
but that's still a tin star. It's better than no tin star.
That's right. Okay, let's move on to number 2. This is Kyoungjin Lee from Korea, and here's the design. Do you want to have a go at describing this one?
It's a black dot with Luke's English podcast sort of repurposed from the logo, if you can call it that I designed for you many years ago. Mm-hmm. Above that is popping your head.
Yes.
As an illustrated black and white cartoon style graphic.
Yep.
And quite a large microphone, 50s style chrome kind of mic in a similar style. And you're kind of smiling and looking towards the camera, so to speak.
Okay.
I think it's solid. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with it. Well, the mic's a bit big, but it's good. I'd say good effort. Not sure if I like the recycling of the logo or not. It could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. I haven't decided.
When you say recycling of the logo, you mean that it sort of does borrow quite heavily from the original logo,
which is not a bad thing. I'm not against that in principle. So I'm kind of ambivalent towards that.
It's a sort of remix of the original logo.
It's a remix,
in a sense.
Yeah. It's quite a nice. I'm not that keen on the drawing, I have to say.
Why? What's your feeling about the drawing?
It's actually, I think it's got your expression quite well.
Mm-hmm. But I look a bit odd.
It's a bit pale. I mean, it could do with a bit of colour, maybe.
I feel I look a little odd, I have to say. It's a minimal cartoon style image of me, but I feel like I don't know. I feel I look a bit more bird-like in this picture than I do in the real world.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a sort of a drawback. So first of all, there's definitely an LEP connection here. It's Luke's English podcast. It's got my face on it. Unmistakable. It's not massively original, which is a sort of a drawback for me, in the sense that it's the text from the original logo and my face, and then the microphone is not actually the mic that I use. I don't know if that's an issue. I don't use that microphone.
That's a bit pedantic. I think it says radio to me, or sort of classic broadcasting, which is what you do. Okay.
But I look a little weird. Yeah. Connection, yes. Originality, not sure. And in terms of sort of visual appeal, I don't know. You say the microphone's a bit big. I think
sorry, go on.
Dark, very, very binary, sort of black and white. I look a bit weird.
The dark red on the black doesn't pop, as they say these days, annoyingly.
Really?
It doesn't really stand out that much. I mean, if you're looking at from here, the podcast is kind of dipping back into the background a bit.
So the word podcast is printed in red, whereas Luke's English is printed in white. And so you're saying that red on a black background seems to sort of fade back a little bit somehow. It doesn't pop out.
Yeah.
It doesn't pop. Well,
I feel we're being a bit harsh.
I feel,
you know,
I know, yeah. I feel we're being
it
harsh.
feels like if this was my design, I'd be feeling a bit awkward about now. So
it's tricky, isn't it? But this is
we're trying to be critical but polite.
It's interesting. We should imagine that the artist is sitting across from us.
That would be very...
Because that's going to make us maybe moderate our language a bit more.
Well, nice to get involved and throw your hat into the ring.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm delighted.
So definitely a big nice one. To everyone that's done it.
Yeah, I am delighted with the entries that I've received, and people have spent time doing these things and sending them in. So that's just fantastic. So a big nice one for that, definitely. Kyoungjin, we like your design, but I think that considering we have to pick only one or two,
you're not going to go forward to the next round.
I'm afraid you're not going to go through to the merch store on this occasion, but 10 out of 10 for effort and initiative.
Well.
All right. Let's move on to number 3. This is Francisca Braithwaite. And I just want to read some sentences that she wrote in her email. So she wrote this: I would like to say that every time I listen to you talking to the other man in the next room, I laugh. That's the other man who's like get on with it. That person who sometimes is sort of shouting at me from another room or something. All right. So she said, every time I listen to you talking to the other man in the next room, I laugh. So my inspiration was imagining you doing that in an episode. And she's written, I don't watch your videos. I listen to your podcasts. So it's even more funny listening to you doing that. So here's the image. Shall I describe it? Do you want to describe it?
I think it's your turn.
Okay. So I was sent several versions of this, with different ones that could go on a dark background and so on. The one I'm talking about here is it's a orangey brown rectangle, okay, with an illustration of my face. And I seem to be sort of looking to one side, as I do when I speak to that man who shouts at me. And it says, stop rambling, Luke, get to the point. So
it's what happens when you talk to yourself and you kind of go, pretend to be someone else listening.
I'm rambling. Like, you're rambling, that sort of thing. And the illustration of me is it's done in a sort of line drawing style, all done in simple black lines, a bit like if you imagine drawing with a biro like that. And what do you think of the illustration of me, first of all?
I quite like the expression. It's captured something about, your eyebrows look quite good. I wonder if it's been traced off a still, though I'm not accusing anyone of that. But
is that wrong to trace?
In my old school days, that was seen as terrible.
Tracing?
Yeah.
Do you want to explain what tracing is?
We lay a piece of paper over another piece of paper and draw over the top. And you could obviously do that digitally these days. Mm-hmm. Depends, I think in art, actual... fine art, let's say, I don't think that's acceptable, but in illustration it is.
Okay.
So in this case it's perfectly acceptable.
All right.
And I like the liney style. It looks like a sort of nice kind of weird comic style, like a bit Harvey Pekar.
Yeah, like a sort of underground comic sort of thing you'd pick up in some hipster record shop.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
I like that. Not so into the text. But the illustration is very nice.
The font of the text?
Yeah, the font's... it's okay. I would have preferred it handwritten, maybe. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I don't want to be negative. I like it generally. I think I'm more of a fan of the illustration than I am of the other elements.
Okay. Right. So for me, I think there's definitely an LEP connection. Obviously, it's a specific reference to this invisible person who shouts at me, which is good. And it doesn't actually say Luke's English Podcast on it anywhere, but it does have my name and my picture, of course. And then just in terms of the sort of the negative, I don't know, I would say maybe the composition of it, there's like a large area of empty space in the top right.
Negative space.
Is that good?
That's okay.
That's okay, is it?
Yeah.
Blank, empty space is a good thing?
It can be.
How?
Because you don't just fill up every space on a canvas, let's call it, you leave some negative space sometimes, and it draws your eye to the elements rather than just filling everything.
And I suppose in this picture I am looking into the empty space, which is quite appropriate.
I don't think the text works as well within that context framework as it could do.
Okay.
So I'm not against negative space in principle, but yeah, that's it.
Okay. I'm going to give sort of, on the negative side, comments that probably just come from pure vanity, I would say, at this point. So in terms of vanity, I don't know, I'm a little uncomfortable about the way I look in this picture. And I seem to have been aged quite a lot, although maybe this is actually how I look, and this is a wake-up call for me. I don't know.
Yeah, you do look a bit like that.
Do I really look like that?
Well, you don't have black lines on your face, but no, you're not that. I mean, just a little tip here, flatter the judges.
Yeah, always flatter the judges. But I mean, shall I go into the specifics of
well, your hairline?
Yeah, I feel that I feel like I'm a bit balder in the picture than I am in real life.
Not much.
Oh, great.
I can't talk, though. I'm completely bald.
And I seem to have quite big bags under my eyes. I seem to be very tired.
Yeah, you look tired. I think that looks good, but...
You like that, do you?
Yeah, but again, it's not flattering to the judge.
Right, and also the slight double chin.
Which is there in reality.
Is it really?
Well...
Oh, dear.
Maybe it doesn't look quite as pronounced as it does in that drawing.
See, James is being diplomatic to me now. Yeah, but I suppose when you get into your mid-40s, then, these things start to happen, don't they? It's
lockdown lard.
Happens to the best at lockdown lard.
Yeah.
Lard means fat, listeners.
Yeah, lard is a sort of animal fat they use in cooking. And that's the phrase that we've been talking about.
Really?
Regarding putting on weight during lockdown or pandemic or whatever you want to call it.
Lockdown lard. Okay.
It's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, nice one. Okay, is this going to go in the merch store, James? Is this going through?
For me, it's a no.
Okay,
thanks again for sending in your entry.
I agree. I think it's great. I love the specific reference, but I just personally, the visual appeal is not quite there, and so I don't think this is going to be on a T-shirt.
Okay.
But again, thank you so much for sending in your entry. Let's move on to number 4, entry number 4. And this is from Silvia and Sara, or Sara. I'm going to say Sara. So Silvia is from Italy, now living in Denmark, and Sara is her daughter, who is 15 years old. Sara did the illustrations for this with input from Silvia, and they've sent us 2 illustrations. So this is what Silvia wrote. She said, "Let's move to the reason I'm reaching out, the design competition. I've attached 2 different designs. Both were made by my daughter, Sara. She is the artist, with just some input from my side." So Sarah's done the drawing and Silvia was the sort of artistic director, let's say.
Mum and daughter team.
Yeah. So the first picture, she says, the first is a ninja logo, a tribute to your super international audience, most of the time silent, but anyway supportive. And the second is dedicated to your lovely mum and her book club, with the hope to have her on the podcast more often in the future. And Silvia has said, "As a mum, I find Sarah's drawing amazing. Also, considering that she is a self-learner, not studying design or so on, or things like that. She's more of a science girl, and drawing is more of a passion for her, or a hobby, I think we would say normally in the UK. Would be great if one of Sarah's drawings is selected to be displayed on your website, but if this will not be the case, I hope you will be willing to use the Gill's Book Club logo just to stamp a mug and give it to your mum as a small token for Christmas." That's a big plus point.
That gets points.
A gift for mum. So what are we looking at first, James? Do you want to see Gill's Book Club, or do you want to see the LEP Ninjas?
Let's see the ninjas first.
Okay, let's have a look at the ninjas. All right, do you want to describe what we can see? Say what you see.
I do really like this one. It's 2 cartoony ninjas, obviously sort of international ninjas. They've got different flags on their armbands. They're looking at a LEP podcast app or something, and it's got the little mod logo that I did, which is a nice touch. And then underneath it says Luke's English Podcast Ninja in a kind of cute bubble font writing, hand drawn.
Sort of graffiti art that you would do in a school notebook.
Which again is a bonus for me. And above it says, awesome, it's another rambling episode.
Yeah, so the ninjas are both listening with headphones.
And they're kind of slightly anime-style ninjas, I'd say, or slightly, kind of cartoon-like. They're great. Really, really like this one.
They're very, very cute ninjas indeed, and they've got sort of headbands on, and the headbands are sort of flowing in the breeze. They've both got sort of swords on their backs, and yes, headphones in, and they're both plugged into the same phone with the Luke's English, one of the podcast logos that James did. Very cute and very appealing indeed.
Lots of nice touches, quite thoughtful, and I think it's my top tip so far. Tip for the top. Pot pickers.
This is your top tip.
This is my top pick so far. Maybe I should say top pick.
Your top pick. Your top tip.
It's a top tip for my heart for a hot pick.
A top tip for a hot pick for the LEP merch store here.
Yeah.
So this is good. This is looking good. The positive things here.
Really rate this, and I think what's the girl's name?
Sara.
Sara.
Sara. I'm not sure, but Sara. Let's say.
I think you should make a zine of these little characters or something similar with your artwork, because it's very good.
Do some comic strips.
Make some longer form comics and make them into little booklets. Just my suggestion, something that will live on forever.
Yeah, very positive. I mean, LEP connection, definitely there, very strongly. A great interpretation of the LEP ninja phenomenon.
Flattering use of one of
your logos. Yeah, right in the centre of the picture there.
International vibe.
Yeah, it says Luke's English Podcast on it. It's very clear what it is, that it's a podcast that people can listen to. Lovely flags on their arms.
Ninja box ticked, because we did specifically ask for ninjas.
That's right, we asked for ninjas, so here we go. I don't know.
It's a good double effort from both of you.
I don't know
if the ideas from Mum and the execution, ninja style execution from daughter. So very good.
Yeah. Are there any negatives really? I mean, the bubble graffiti font that you mentioned is quite specific and quite sort of kids textbook kind of stuff.
That's a good point.
But you like that? That's a good thing. Well, I mean, that might not be to everyone's taste, but you certainly like it.
I suppose if there has to be a negative, I probably wouldn't wear it because it's quite youthful.
Yeah.
And it's not really a 47-year-old man style.
I do have...
So whether that's a negative, I don't know, because there's not many T-shirts that I wear anyway, to be honest, with logos and brands and stuff on them.
But
Apart from really weird skate logos. But that's the only thing for me, but I'm clutching at straws there to find a negative.
Nice expression, clutching at straws. We're going to have to explain that one. Clutching at straws, desperately trying to find some kind of answer or response.
Anything where you can't immediately think of an example of something. I don't know. How would you describe that? He's going to the Collins
I'm
dictionary.
actually looking at Colin. What would Colin say? So, clutching at straws means to rely on ideas, hopes, or methods which are unlikely to be successful because you're desperate. It's basically when you're desperate and you can't think of anything else to you're trying to find a solution because you're desperate. So you can imagine literally trying to grab a straw. You're just kind of clutching at any straw you can get your hand on.
Not quite the origin of, if that is the origin, does it say what the origin of the...
It doesn't tell us the origin.
I wonder if there's a reason why you should particularly be clutching at straws, but...
Anyway,
it just means you're kind of desperate for an answer or an example of something. In
terms of negative comments,
or if someone said, "I need a £5, what can I do? I've locked myself out of my house." Like, have you checked your pockets for spare change? No, there's nothing there.
All right, just
have you checked your jacket? Yeah. Have you looked on the... I'm just clutching at straws here.
Yeah, desperately trying to find a solution. Yeah, so I said to you, any negatives? And you're like, well, maybe it's not something I would wear, but, I'm just clutching at straws. Just trying to find a negative comment because you asked me to. Very strong entry. So this is our top pick for a hot T-shirt for a hot day.
Top tip for a hot pick. No, it's just the kind of thing they used to say on the radio. That's the only reason I'm saying that.
Okay, all right, very strong entry, the best one so far, we would say. let's talk about the Gill's Book Club logo then as well. That's also by Sara with help from Silvia. So this depicts a very cozy scene. So we can see the image in a similar style to the ninja one we just talked about. It's the corner of a room, a cozy looking room with a bookshelf with lots of books on it, and a lovely, comfy looking armchair with a cat curled up on it, sleeping. Next to the armchair, there is a little side table, proudly displaying a Luke's English podcast mug, again with the sort of mod red, white and blue logo that James came up with recently, and 2 candles burning, and a window with curtains which appear to be sort of blowing in the breeze, even though the windows are closed, which is a little bit spooky. And then in the same kind of bubble font over the top, this is a circular image, by the way, and over the top of the circular image it says Gill's Book Club. Okay. And it's kind of nice cartoony style, very cozy image. What are your thoughts?
I think it's lovely. As soon as I saw it, I just kind of thought, oh, that's lovely. Love the candles. They look really nicely drawn. The cup of tea looks really nicely drawn. Addition of little logo, very nice. I like the cat. The books look really nicely sort of chunky, and they just seem to fit nicely into the physics of the room, if that or the geometry of the room.
Yeah.
Kind of feels fairly solid.
Yeah.
I like the shading. It's very, very good indeed. Mm-hmm. And I think you should definitely make a comic of some sort.
Yeah, there you go. Vote of confidence there for Sara and her artistic skills. Well, I'm definitely
any negatives.
Yes.
It could have said Luke's English podcast at the bottom, maybe, just to kind of put the context of Gill's Book Club. Mm-hmm. But then again, that's not really a major point.
It's a minor gripe.
It's a minor gripe. It would look great on a mug, wouldn't it?
It would. It would look especially good on a mug.
I think you're going to have to make one.
I think that this is definitely a Christmas present for Mum. I would say. So that's definitely going to happen. Which I suppose means it's going to go in the merch store. Sort of got in the back door there. If only to be able to make a mug for our mum for Christmas.
I mean, I could actually get you one cheaper than that.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that there are plenty of
but they don't offer the
companies.
No, but that's where you just send in your own design. They don't offer the option to have it as a store.
Yes.
It's more like, if you go to a merchandise company and say, I want 2 mugs, you
sort
can
of
get them
a business-to-business thing, that's what you're saying.
Well, not maybe I shouldn't be talking about this.
It's what you're talking about is merchandising models. You're talking about B2B, business to business, where if you want to sell a bunch of merchandise, you can get it printed, but then it's up to you to actually sell it and do the interface with the customers and stuff.
Exactly. That's what your stores do for you, which is why it costs you a bit more.
Yeah, I do B2C, from business to customer, direct, to the end user. So that's why there are added costs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, very good stuff. Let's move on to number 5. Oh, God, we're going to have to pick up the pace, James.
All right, good.
So this is from Giuliana. I'm not sure where Giuliana is from. Okay, James, describe this, and we're going to try and do it in a bit quicker now.
It's a drawing of some description of a frog. I think it's been done in some software. Yeah. It's a fairly rudimentary frog, I've got to say.
Meaning a fairly basic image. There's only a few lines, really, that have been used.
It's got headphones on, and it says FNL, Frog Ninja Listeners.
And then Luke's English podcast underneath.
So this is quite a funny idea. I like the idea of frog ninjas. Mm-hmm. Are they like frogs that are ninjas, or are they ninjas that are frogs?
Well, that's the same thing, isn't it? Frogs that are frogs that are ninjas are also ninjas that are frogs.
It's more ninja than frog. If it's a ninja that's also a frog, it's a kind of a mainly adult ninja size, but with frog features. Or are they like 6 inches long frogs who run around and act as ninjas in the frog world?
Would that be ninja frogs or frog ninjas?
That's the point I'm making.
Okay. In any case, I don't think this
made me laugh. The idea of a frog ninja made me laugh. The drawing leaves a little bit to be desired.
Yeah.
But it made me laugh. It put a smile on my face.
The drawing is a bit too basic, I have to say. I quite like the composition, the big picture with the text in the bottom right-hand corner like that. But I'm afraid the drawing's a little bit too, as you say, rudimentary. Although I like the intention, which is to somehow, fulfill the frog thing, because we do need some sort of frog dissecting the frog thing. But I think that there's a bit of a misunderstanding, though, and it's slight sort of issue with the connection to the podcast, in the sense that what are frog ninjas? We know what the ninjas are. These are listeners who listen, they don't get in touch. And the frog thing is when I describe and explain jokes. Dissecting the frog means dissecting the joke, and the frog dies in the process.
And
right?
the joke. Yeah.
And the joke dies in the process too. So we've kind of mixed up the images here. We've got a frog ninja. But I never dissect the ninjas. I'm not dissecting the listeners. So I'm a bit confused by that. Is this a frog the frog doesn't look very happy as well. So maybe this is a frog listening to me dissecting the frog.
Another frog.
Yeah.
And I'm next.
And feeling a bit disturbed by it. And these are ninja listeners who are extra ninjas because they're frogs. So they keep quiet because I better not get in touch. You might want to try and chop me up as well.
You've worked it out.
So maybe that's what it is. But I think, unfortunately, it's not going to go on a T-shirt, mainly because of the visual. I think the visual appeal. If we had a more detailed frog, with a bit more personality to it, I think that he would make it in. But nice effort at doing something frog based.
Yeah, nice.
And we like the idea of a frog ninja.
I definitely do. I mean, I've been thinking about it a lot since I saw this. Practically nothing else. Frog ninjas. I mean, what are they? Where are they? I mean, if they're good ninjas, you wouldn't even know. Could be 6 frog ninjas in here now.
Yeah, that's right. It's a bit disturbing. Okay. We're going to move on to number 6. This is from Adel Ratatix from Hungary. Okay. And here we go. Do you want to describe this, James?
No.
You don't want to describe. Why not?
You can. You don't?
Okay.
Okay, all right, I will. It's a black and white illustration with a sort of circular shape with Luke's bang in the middle, with a microphone in one hand and a scalpel in the other hand, about to dissect a frog. He's got headphones on and he's broadcasting. There's a map mainly of Europe in the background. LEPland is written above. Mm-hmm. And there's 3 ninjas poking their heads up behind him. Yes. And the frog looks slightly ill.
Yeah, he's lying there not very well, and he's about to be dissected.
It's good and slightly scary at the same time.
Really?
Yeah.
What's scary about it?
It's a slightly grotesque image of a sort of slightly distorted Luke Thompson about to dissect a frog, looking really happy about it.
My shoulders and my arms are a bit disturbing. The shape is a bit odd,
but it's really good at the same time.
Yeah,
it's kind of slightly weird, but good.
I have to say, this is maybe one of my favourites.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So the circular thing in the background must be the Earth.
That's thing in the that circular thing.
So there's the Earth in the background. We can see basically Europe. I think that's just because we wanted to get. I guess the artist wanted to get the UK in there and France, and so it's mainly Europe. And despite the fact that people seem to think that most of my listeners are in Russia or China or Japan, actually Europe as a region as a whole does get more listens than any of the other places, but because it's divided up into the individual countries, that means that Europe is sort of split up in my statistics. So Europe, I guess probably more Lepsters are in Europe than in other places. Okay, but I like the illustration. I think it's really, I do like it. I think it looks like me, although again, from the sort of ego side, I feel like I look older in the picture than I actually am in real life, but maybe that's just my vanity coming into play. But again, my hairline seems to be receding quite badly, but maybe this is just a wake-up call for me.
It is.
It is, okay. But lots of connections. I like the LEPland thing, and the cable from my headphones goes all the way around the world. It spells out the words LEPland, and then it's plugged into France, which is a bit odd because I'm not actually listening
That's a nice touch, though. I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
But that's clever.
Yeah. And then the microphone there. And so there's the LEPland thing. There's a picture of me podcasting. There are 3 ninjas sort of poking their heads out. And I'm dissecting a frog. And I think this kind of black and white illustration does look good on a white T-shirt. So I like this one. I think this is a strong contender. We've got to try and speed up here. So we're going to move on to Lenka from Slovakia. The picture that Lenka has sent in is... so her image is... So it's a double-sided T-shirt. The front of the T-shirt appears to be a podcast player with a play button and a time bar and the name of an episode and the name of the podcast. So the episode is number 496, Ramblecast, and it says Luke's English Podcast, Learn British English with Luke Thompson. The time bar, we're up to 24 minutes and 31 seconds, and then there's a green play button. So it's as if there's a podcast player on the front. And on the back, we've got a section of the episode list with the episode in question highlighted in the middle in green. So you've got a list of episodes on the back from episode 505 to from 489 to 505, including the Ramblecast. Episode list on the back, podcast player on the front. What do you reckon?
Really rate this one. I rate this one. Yeah. It's very modern, I think. Very modern approach. Slightly, would that be postmodern? Sort of the way it's presented as like the raw kind of data. I
think the postmodern thing is having a podcast player on a T-shirt.
That kind of thing, but with all the little bits of text and stuff and the time codes, and it's just sort of nicely techie and modern. Mm-hmm. I like the neon green. I like the kind of minimal nature of it as well.
Yeah.
I like the sort of utilitarian style, lots of text with one bit highlighted.
Yes.
I mean, when I first saw it, I wasn't initially sure if I liked it, but then after about 10 seconds I thought, actually, that's great. So that's my second favourite so far.
Wow, that's good.
I think it's really good. Yeah, it reminds me of a lot of graphics that you see in kind of dance music and electronic music, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's well executed. So,
okay.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah, it is a strong contender. It is. I mean, it's got the podcast name. None of the sort of podcast logos, although we have sort of said that, I don't know how we feel about that.
I quite like that, though, the fact that it's just the information you get on the player itself.
Right.
So Luke's English Podcast is on there.
Yeah.
It's just not glaringly obvious, but I like the number next to the podcast episode. It's kind of like sampling almost.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
I rate this one, yeah.
Okay. All right. Good comments for that as well. Next, number 8, Evgeniya Markovic, who has sent me illustrations in the past. She said, designing this was lots of fun, and as you'll see, I decided to stick to the frog image, but this time in a bit of a different style. Okay, so what we've got here with Evgeniya's design is you've got the globe, right? So the Earth with some sort of clouds, formations on it, as you'd expect, in the blue ocean, and then one big green continent, and the big green continent is in the shape of a frog. Okay, and then in orange lettering with some drop shadow, it says LEPland Citizen. Okay, and so the T-shirt idea is that you'd have a smaller one on the front and then a larger one on the back, or a small one on the sweater and a larger one on the T-shirt or something. But there it is, a sort of LEPland in the shape of a frog, right? So, have you got any thoughts on this, James?
Slightly mixed messages here, or sort of mixed metaphors, maybe.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't quite get why the frog is the great continent.
Yeah.
Unless you are then about to dissect it, where the bits float off and form the continents, which would kind of make you God. Which you're not, as far as I can tell.
No, I'm really not.
Much as you do have your own podcast, but let's not get
carried away. So yes, it's a slightly odd image that, okay, so yeah, if this is one big continent and then I dissect this frog, yeah, as you say, break up the continents and that forms the Earth, which sort of suggests that I'm God. And
have we completely just misinterpreted that?
I don't know.
Are we overthinking this or underthinking it?
I don't know, really. But also it's a bit like the other one that we had, the Ninja Frog, where it's like, okay, the frog thing, but that LEPland is where all the Lepsters are. and the frog thing is when I dissect jokes. So it's sort of mixing the things up in a slightly confused way, potentially.
I'm afraid so. But from a purely visual point of view, I like it. Looks quite like ravey. Looks a bit like a rave flyer to me. Especially the long sleeve. But concept-wise, it's either too complicated or it's completely missed the point. I can't tell which, but I still like it.
Okay. I like it too, but I think because of that issue with the concept, as you said, I think it's not going to make it this time, I'm afraid. What was that?
That's like some sort of trapdoor or something where the contestants fall into.
Oh, where you throw the thing into like a bin or something like that?
No, the person.
You pull a lever and you fall through a trapdoor.
Yeah, we forgot to tell you about that.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. All the people who don't go through to the actual merch store, I'm afraid you are going to be dropped through a trapdoor into, shark-infested water?
We're not sure yet. We're working on it, but
okay,
it's not going to be nice.
Some kind of James Bond villain sort of trap. Okay, but yeah.
All joking aside, thanks for taking part, and nice one.
Yes, definitely. Number 9, Alyona. By the way, Evgeniya was the one who, I don't know if you've seen this, but she did send in an illustration of me dissecting a frog on the podcast, and it's excellent.
Haven't seen that one.
You haven't seen that, but that's very good. So I'm pretty sure that's Evgeniya. I might be wrong, but I think that was you. So props to you for that as well. Number 9 is Alyona. And, Alyona sent several images. Let's look at this first one. Now, this one, to me, is very kind of cryptic.
That's the word.
It's like a puzzle. You've got to work it out.
It's a visual puzzle.
Or like one of those little visual puzzles you get in a magazine or something, where it's like a well-known phrase, but in pictures, and you've got to work out what it means. So there's a crown, right? The sort of crown that a king would wear. And underneath the crown, it says D equals L, then an apostrophe, then what I think is Big Ben, and then I guess it's a sort of an earphone, right?
It's an ear with a earbud in it.
It's an ear with a little headphone earbud in it, then. Okay, so do you know what this means?
I didn't until you explained it to me.
I think I've decoded it. So the crown, I think it means duke, right? So you got like king, prince, duke, lord.
Do dukes wear a crown?
I don't think dukes wear crowns. Anyway, but so the D equals L means you take the D from Duke and put an L in, and it's Luke, right?
That makes sense.
Then the apostrophe is obviously Luke's, although the apostrophe is technically upside down. But
lose points for that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and then Big Ben must represent English, I suppose, right? Because it kind of does, around the world.
I suppose it's a landmark, isn't it?
You just see, like, on a sort of some English school in some countries, they've always got like a picture of Big Ben or whatever.
Yeah, true.
So that's what that means, English. And then the earpiece thing is obviously podcast, right? So, okay. Yeah. But it's a bit abstract.
It's very abstract. It's a bit convoluted. That's a good word for this.
So overly complicated, sort of cryptic. Yeah.
The ear looks a bit like a jammy Dodger, half a biscuit.
It does look a bit like a donut. You've just bitten into a donut, like a jammy donut.
And it's got a worm coming out of it.
It appears to have the cable for the headphone appears to be like a worm that's coming out of the donut. Here's a joke for you. What's worse than finding a worm in your donut?
I don't know.
Finding half a worm.
Hey,
because obviously, before you write in, because that means you've eaten the other half of the worm, doesn't it? Yeah.
Probably some much needed protein in an otherwise barren snack.
Yeah, that's right. Putting a worm in a donut.
That would actually improve the donut.
Make it healthier. Anyway, so I'm afraid we find this one to be, it's certainly striking.
I like the colours. I like the graphical style mostly. I'm not sure about the ear. But I generally think it's quite pleasing visually.
Yeah.
Nice consistent use of colours. You've used the same dark red throughout. And the various tones of kind of goldy orange.
Yeah. So
there's definite plus points, but overall not one for me, I'm afraid. And I've got my hand on the lever.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute, because this same person also sent this in, which is another sort of bold, abstract design made of 3 shapes that sort of interlock.
It's a slightly cubist cup of tea, I'd say.
Right.
Which I quite like.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like a teacup, and the handle is represented by a green, what looks like a C shape. and half of the teacup is orange, and half of it's sort of a turquoise colour. And it says Luke's English Podcast in the corner, and above that it says "It's my cup of tea."
Yeah,
right.
I mean, nice message, nice colours again, quite nice, striking visual, but it's not really floating my boat.
It's a bit too abstract, I'm afraid, and the connection to the podcast is not quite clear enough, even though it does say Luke's English Podcast there.
I like it, but I don't love it.
Okay, I like the intention. I like the approach you've taken, but I think that it's, in terms of visual appeal, again, I don't know if it's one that everyone's going to put on a T-shirt, although that could go on a mug quite well. But it doesn't shout Luke's English Podcast, I'm afraid. And the other one with Big Ben and so on is, again, it's just a bit too obscure in its message. So, I'm afraid, do you want to pull the lever or shall I do it? I mean,
I think it's your turn, but thanks for sending it in.
Okay.
And enjoy the sharks.
Enjoy the drop into the water. We think it's sharks. Stick your finger in their gills and eyes. That's the best way to fight them off.
You've got to punch them in the nose.
That doesn't make a difference. Punching them in the nose. No,
I've been given false information.
You've been given. Don't punch a shark in the nose.
I've been waiting to do that all my life.
Plus, you can't even punch if you're underwater anyway. But no, jab its eyes and gills.
Right. Okay.
That's how you get rid of a shark.
All right.
Okay. Bit of advice for you there. Okay. All right. Bye. Splosh. Right, moving on to number 10, Denis Leone. Some text here from Denis. So Denis says, I'm a graphic designer and also have my own online stores on TeePublic and Redbubble. Oh, nice one. When I heard about a competition, my two main questions were, should I and what design? For the first one, I answered, yes, why not? For the second one, I was thinking about a design. Actually, I made two. Sorry, that can be easily a design that can be easily recognisable, well known among Lepsters, has a close connection with some major Luke's occupations, stand-up comedy gigs and teaching English, has their own unique, controversial but funny history, and then it hit me. Yes, I think you know what I'm talking about. The Russian joke. And Denis says, and I made it. And there is some explanation to my design. Okay, so, all right. I'm going to just explain the image because I think it's kind of what Denis is doing there. So there's actually two. It could be the front and back of a T-shirt. So do you want to describe this? No? Okay, we're trying to be quick. So it says in bold uppercase letters with a sort of dark blue outline, an interesting sort of design. It says rushing. And then on the G, there's a cup of tea being spilt, sort of suggesting that you're in a rush. You know, you're like, oops, I've spilt my tea, I'm in a rush. Rushing, joke. And then underneath it says Russian. And the word Russian is in the Russian flag colours. The white, blue and red of the Russian flag. Okay? Russian joke. And in the O of the word joke, you can see my silhouette from the Luke's English Podcast logo. Rushing, joke, Russian. And then on the back, it says in the same font, there is no rushing to get the Russian joke. Your thoughts?
I think it's visually quite bold. Looks a bit like it would make a good poster. I like the cup of tea drawing, kind of jumping off the saucer with the tea spilling. That's a nice touch. The message, I get the Russian joke, although I don't find it that funny.
Well, you said that to me earlier, but then when I actually told you what it was,
in context,
you did enjoy it.
It's an in-joke, though, isn't it? It's a sort of in-joke that you have to listen to understand.
No, the in-joke is that I told the story of when it happened, and the audience didn't notice. I told the story on the podcast, and then because I told the story, people still didn't understand the joke.
Yeah.
And so they wrote, I didn't understand that joke, can you explain it? And every time I explain it, someone else then writes in to say they haven't understood it. And the whole point of the anecdote is that people didn't understand the joke.
It's a self-perpetuating explanation that will never be fully understood.
It's just a joke that people
just a play on words.
Consistently get misunderstand. And it was basically some people came in, you're late. Where are you from? Oh, we're Russian. Well, you weren't Russian to come here, were you?
That's good.
Right.
That is funny. Sorry, I'll take it back. That is a good joke.
Thank you very much.
In context.
Yeah, since I came up with it on the spot.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But now I'll get people writing and saying, so, actually, I didn't understand that.
But out of context, it doesn't really mean that much.
Yes. Okay, so there is no rushing to get the Russian joke. Okay, with the Russian joke, it's actually very difficult. People get it wrong all the time. I see people writing comments and they haven't understood it. You know, this person seems to have understood the joke, which is good.
Yeah, it's kind of solidly rushing. Rushing.
There is no rushing to get the Russian joke. Yeah.
Yeah,
All
clever.
right.
It's good. It looks like a good poster to me. That.
Yeah. But
it's not snappy enough, though, for me. It's not like a quick phrase that's going to stick in your mind or roll off the tongue. But it looks good, so I'll give it points for that. But I'm not sure about the general concept.
The first one as well, rushing joke, Russian, doesn't quite click. Actually, we're being very frank with our feedback.
We are.
We're forgetting that the person sitting opposite us.
I see. It would be much. I think we'd be much more polite if the person was.
I think so. Can we just say a big sort of, sorry if we've sort of rubbed you up the wrong way at all?
Because I'm personally, I'm very touchy about things like that.
Yeah,
if anyone
me too.
criticises something I've done,
yeah,
I take it really personally.
Yeah.
I hate them. So please don't hate us. We're just trying to have a laugh, and we, it takes some bottle to send something in, knowing that it's going to be analysed. So even by complete amateurs like us, but. Cheers. Nice one
in any case. I was going to say actually, right, that this actually is very similar to an idea that I'd already thought of, and which we were planning for the next series of designs from James, because we do actually have ideas for a whole other series of designs, but your Mac is out of order at the moment.
Yeah,
we're waiting.
It'll be back.
It'll be back. But my idea for the Russian joke thing would be in actually a very similar style. Similar kind of font, but I'd want it to be in italics and closer together, like a sort of 80s sports logo kind of thing. And I would want it to say, I'm Russian to listen to Luke's English podcast. So
and make it look like you were moving quickly.
But there's two versions. So one version says, I'm Russian, meaning I'm from Russia.
Yeah.
This is obviously for the Russian listeners. I'm Russian, and then underneath, to listen to Luke's English podcast. Mm-hmm. And then the other version is I'm rushing, but with the G removed and an apostrophe. So I'm rushing to listen to Luke's English podcast. You could have either one. But I think for Russian listeners, I'm Russian to listen to Luke's English podcast would be quite good.
It's just a little play on words.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, if you'd have written that, you might have won. But you didn't read Luke's mind.
Sorry, you didn't read my mind. So... I hope you can swim. But really good though, nevertheless. And the cup of tea being spilt is a great touch. Yeah. I love the design of the font, these horizontal lines, this pattern, and the color and the Russian flag colors. It is great, and the inclusion of my silhouette. I think it's all strong, but I just feel like the Russian joke could be more efficiently. Told,
utilized.
So for that reason, I'm afraid we're gonna pull the handle. Ka-chung. I'm so sorry. Bye. Splash. Okay, moving on to number 11. This is Jakub. I think it's probably Jakub. That's probably how you say it. And Jakub said, I've decided to try and create a few t-shirt designs. I'm not a designer or anything, but here are my ideas. I couldn't decide which design would be best, so I'm sending you a few of them. Blah, blah, blah. And I think that Jakub used an online logo maker of some sort. We're going to fly through them quite quickly.
Okay.
We've got a series of what I guess look like kind of... I don't want to use the word generic because that's
sort of icons. They look a bit like
they're logos. But
icons, logos. Yeah,
you can imagine that they've been designed using a logo maker, right? Because they're sort of templates, I think. So
I wouldn't like to say. I can't tell.
First one is a red circle with a microphone, and it says Global Society of Lepsters.
I like that phrase.
I do like that too. And then it says Luke's English podcast.
It looks a bit like a book. It looks a bit like has some gravitas to it.
Yes. And I like the idea that you're trying to, refer to the global Lepster community. Next one, similar thing, yellow circle with a microphone, Lepster community.
Looks very web-y, very sort of web internet-y. I suppose which a podcast is, so that's fine.
Yeah, yeah. And then another one with a red microphone, and then it says Global Association of Lepsters.
Looks like a fairly solid logo, actually. You can imagine that existing on a web banner or something.
Yeah, they're strong, very professional-looking logos.
You know, keep at it. I think you're doing well if you're not trained in any way.
Some of these are supposed to be front and back designs, by the way. I'm just sort of whipping through them quite quickly. Another one, LEP in bold navy blue letters, written vertically with a red line, and then written horizontally, Dissecting English with Luke Thompson.
Yeah, not bad. A little bit not exciting, is it? It's not that eye-catching, but it's solid. It's good.
They are a little plain and a little impersonal is the issue, I think.
Yeah, but again, there's nothing bad about them necessarily. They're just not that,
striking,
eye-catching.
Yeah,
but again, solid.
I like the fact that we're doing, the Lepster Community, Global Association of Lepsters. Yeah. I like these names, Dissecting English with Luke Thompson.
Yeah, I like the names and stuff, yeah.
Here's another one, a blue set of headphones, and it says Ninja Lepster, Luke's English podcast. That's good.
Quite a nice little phrase.
Yeah, very professional-looking logo.
Looks a little bit 90s, but then again, I'm quite 90s myself, so that's not a bad thing.
Another one, just a burgundy microphone with headphones around it, and it says LEP. And a similar thing, red headphones and Global Association of Lepsters. So these are good. They're strong. They are professional looking. You could imagine them actually being used by companies or websites.
They look like they might be a kind of sort of conference-y kind of thing.
Yes.
It looks believable, real world like event.
It's like the LEPland.
I'm here for the Global LEPsters.
It's like the LEPland Podcast Conference 2022 kind of thing.
So look, I quite like the sort of realistic nature of these made-up associations.
But then again, as I said, I do find them a little corporate or a little bit impersonal and
quite corporate.
Not that original and a little plain. Ooh, harsh, stinging criticism.
Harsh. It does sound harsh, but
it does, doesn't it?
There's nothing wrong with them. They're good, and keep at it.
They're decent, but what are we going to do with Jakub then? Are we going to let him stay in the green room, or is he going to?
There's only one way out of this room. Well, there's two ways out.
Well, you can be led through into the sort of the
golden hall of
hall of LEPland merchandise, or you get dunked into a pool of water.
They're not all great whites. There's a few tiger sharks in there as well, and they're not quite as aggressive.
They're a bit more docile.
Go for the tiger sharks, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you've
laters.
I think that we've made our decision then.
Yeah. Thanks.
All
thanks for taking part.
Ka-chunk. Okay. Number 13. Now this one is from a team of people. So this is from Vladislav Tasarenko, who is the CEO of the design studio called All for Band Design. And he said he's been a true ninja for many years, and he thought this was a good opportunity to reach out and come out of the shadows. He says, I remember the phrase that you like to repeat on your podcast, I have a particular set of skills. And when I hear this, for some reason, I always imagine you in a superhero suit. And you really do have a particular set of skills. And so on and so forth. And he said, with this concept, I reached out to my chief artist, Pavel Kurbanov, who is the true author of the great artwork I'm presenting to you. So Pavel is the artist, and Vladislav is the director of this one. And it says, I hope it will make you smile at least. And if it wins, I will feel like I've fulfilled my duty and that I can sneak into the shadows like a true ninja. Okay.
Excellent. Good letter there.
Yes. So, James, do you want to have a go at describing that?
Well, it's a sort of quite graphic art style rendering of Luke looking a bit more muscular than he does in real life as a superhero, punching upwards with Luke's English podcast written above, and two ninjas kind of rampant on either side of him, which is what they used to talk about. Rampant is what they used to talk about. The two lions on either side of the...
Oh, really?
I think it's an old word, but look it up.
Okay.
And it says I have particular sets of skills and a particular set of skills.
Yep.
And it's got a massive Union Jack behind it and another one on your chest. And it's very kind of DC comicsy.
Yes. So just to add to that description, Luke's English podcast, it says in big red letters across the top, and then a huge Union Jack, and then it's me as a superhero. But I'm like Captain Britain or something, although that is a real superhero in the Marvel universe, so like Britain Man or something. And I've got this superhero outfit that's got a huge Union Jack on my chest, so very Union Jacky. And I seem to be blasting off into the air, flying with my fist raised. In my other hand, I'm holding a microphone, and I'm saying I have a particular set of skills. Meanwhile, these two ninjas seem to be leaping away, ready for battle, and they're ninja flying stars flying around. The illustrations are excellent. This is clearly a professional who's done this. Really, really good work. Amazing, top quality stuff.
Probably the most professional one we got, I'd say.
I would say so.
Sort of how it's rendered and drawn.
It's excellent. It is excellent. There's a slight misunderstanding of I have a particular set of skills, which actually comes from, I did an episode about the film Taken, and that whole speech, I don't know who you are. I don't know what, I have a particular set of skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. That thing. So it's not necessarily a superhero thing, but that's all right. I expect most people don't remember the Taken reference anymore. It's a bit Brexity, though, is what we thought, isn't it?
Well,
it feels a bit... because that kind of
tends to be... the people who use Union Jacks a lot tend to be quite right-wing. And it's just looks a bit political in the current climate. And Luke's not particularly he's not anti-UK, but he's more of a pro-European or pro-internationalist.
Well, I'm pro-UK, of course, but the problem is that using Union Jacks in such a bombastic fashion at the moment it tends to mean, one
that you're an
thing.
Isolationist and that you want to avoid European integration and
all that stuff. Yeah.
And this is not a criticism of the design, it's more a criticism of our country, because there's nothing wrong with flying a flag.
Yeah.
But it's just become a bit tainted recently with, not that I'm against it, but I probably wouldn't wear a Union Jack t-shirt.
Yeah, it's a little bit, what's the word? Not burdened, saddled.
But it is a cool flag. It's the best flag. He says, becoming suddenly patriotic.
Yeah.
But it just has a few weird connotations at the moment with Brexit and with... just general arseholes, sorry.
So that's
maybe
not,
you should edit that.
That is not the fault of the artist.
That is not the fault of the artist or the concept. It's more a fault of our own mess of a country
and our own sense of discomfort regarding certain imagery at this period. So, and also another point is actually I do look a bit like the character Homelander from the TV series The Boys in this, and I don't know if you've seen that, but the Boys is all about this set of superheroes who are basically like psychopaths, and Homelander is like an evil superhero of the worst kind, and he's total psycho. An amazing character, but definitely not the one that you want to be associated with. That's probably just an accident, but I kind of see that when I see this. Yeah, what are we going to do?
It's brilliantly drawn and very professional, but it's just too flaggy for me.
Too flaggy. Too much flag waving. But look, we're smiling. So you have made us
smiling.
You've made us
definitely
smile.
Smiling.
You've made us smile.
I was looking at it in quite close detail, wondering, is this all original art? Did that body come from anywhere else, or has that been all brand new rendered?
Look at the ninjas. The way the ninjas have been illustrated. Clearly, this artist is able to draw this kind of these bodies and stuff. So I think it's completely original.
Considering my attempts to draw a ninja earlier, geez, they were absolutely terrible. Really, it's not my style at all. I can't do that kind of fine illustration. So difficult. I think the work is excellent quality.
Nevertheless,
just the vibe isn't right for us.
The vibe isn't right.
So.
Oh dear. It's the thing with doing competitions. You always end up rejecting more people than... it's like a disappointment factory.
I really hope no one's actually offended, because we're just trying to have fun with this. And, nice one for everyone for sending stuff in.
Let's move on to number 14. This is Sia. Sia from Shanghai. Sia has decided to do an image which is inspired by certain improvised stories that I've done on the podcast. And I think that maybe Sia has recently listened to the Prawn story, and also probably the Phrasal Verb Chronicles. Is that the one? Or maybe the verb, adjective, verb, preposition collocations. I can't remember, but several improvised stories. One which involved a prawn, and one which did involve biscuits, and Batman made an appearance. And it's a picture of me standing in the middle with a guitar in my hands, and then on my right it's me but with a prawn on my head, and on the other side it's me dressed as Batman eating a biscuit, and it says Luke's English Podcast over the top. Okay, so these are 3 characters inspired by those improvised stories. Okay, what do you think?
Well, I love the illustration style. I think it's excellent. Again, I'd like to see a proper comic of this, or not of this, but from this artist. Mm-hmm. It's quite obscure, isn't it? I mean, look at that shrimp. It's brilliant. Its face.
It's really well done.
I think this may be my favourite style. As far as the actual, illustration and shading and everything, I think it's really good.
Yes,
but it's just a bit too obscure, and it doesn't shout
Luke's English Podcast, although it does actually say Luke's English Podcast over the top.
Letters. Yeah. It's really good. It's just doesn't quite feel like a t-shirt for me. I think I'd almost prefer it without anything, just the drawings.
You can have that. She, I think, I'm not sure, but Sia did send a version with just a plain white background.
I just think it's a bit too obscure for someone that didn't know what it was about, would have no clue what that was. But maybe that's a plus point. It's confusing people is fun.
The thing is, so the wearability factor and the podcast connection is definitely very specific, but almost too specific. And I wonder if people seeing the guy with the prawn on his head, they're going to. More people will think that's odd, and even a lot of Lepsters won't have heard that because it's an old episode.
Yeah,
a lot of people won't be aware of the prawn story.
Very niche.
Yes, and Batman as well is not a recurring character, I have to say.
And also, are you legally allowed to have a picture of Batman on a piece of merch that you're selling? Probably not.
Good point.
Even though it's originally drawn by an original
it's not,
hand.
Yeah. So I think the obscurity factor is an issue here, and I think a lot of people seeing that would not put 2 and 2 together and realise that that it's about the podcast. Even if it says Luke's English Podcast across the top, I think even a Lepster would go, "Oh, Luke's English Podcast, but what? What's the prawn and the Batman?" And I get Luke in the middle with the guitar, definitely, but the I think a lot of people, even a lot of Lepsters, wouldn't make that connection.
But I'd like to see more from this artist, I think. I'd like to see. If you've done a comic, please send us in one or something.
More. Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid you'll have to contend with some sharks first.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a few other people down there. Maybe the sharks are full.
They might be full by now. You might get lucky.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good luck anyway.
All right. Cheers.
Chunk. Is it necessary to dunk them in the water?
I'm afraid so.
Okay. Okay then. Number 15, this is from Andrey.
God, how many more have we got?
Yeah, we've got just a few more, I promise.
Okay. No, not that it's bad, it's just I know you're running out of data.
No, we're okay in terms of SD card space, but listener attention is...
Yeah, there's waning.
Yeah, there's only maybe a few people still listening to this. But anyway, it has always been that way, and it always will be, I think, James. So let's just keep on soldiering on. So this one from Andrey, do you want to describe that, or do you want me to describe it?
Go on, crack on.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. So it's kind of like an X-ray of the Luke's English Podcast logo, like some kind of digital X-ray kind of. So imagine the podcast logo, but instead of the bricks in the background, it's got like a diagonal phonemic script. Okay, and I think it says learn real British English with Luke Thompson, written in phonemic script in diagonal lines in the background.
That's phonetic, is it?
Phonetics, yes. Right. So that's an interesting design. It's almost like a pattern in the background. Then the what normally is the white sign, street sign, is inverted. It's black with white lines instead. And instead of saying Luke's English Podcast, it has phonemic transcriptions of Luke's English Podcast. Instead of my silhouette, there's a skull. And then real British English is also written in phonemic transcription. So it's kind of like an X-ray of like, this is what the Luke's English Podcast logo actually says.
It's like some kind of, in the sort of alien universe. So if they scanned something, it might give you a readout like that.
Yeah.
It's clever. I didn't understand that initially, but having pointed it out, I think that's really nice.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
like this
cool.
design, actually. It's quite techno. It's quite futuristic. It's quite kind of 8-bit as well at the same time.
Yeah.
Kind of old video game kind of style. Yeah, it looks like something, you might see someone wearing at a techno club.
There's a black on white version and a white on black version.
I think I like the black version, the black T-shirt version.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually rate this. This might even be my third favourite.
Yes.
I don't know why, because it's quite weird, but it's good. I can kind of imagine myself wearing that black one.
Yeah.
If that black was not ink, if that was just white ink and red ink on black T-shirt, I could probably wear that.
You know what, James? I think this is a deciding factor. Honestly, having thought about it, I would wear that black T-shirt doing a video.
Yeah.
I really like the fact it's phonemic
And
transcription.
I like the idea of the skull as like an X-ray, kind of a sort of little scan of your head.
Yeah.
I didn't get that initially, but yeah,
I actually,
very clever.
I want to wear the black one. I love the phonemics. That's the thing I like about it the best. And it's an accurate phonemic transcription, I believe. Luke's English podcast. Yep. Real British English. It is good. I want to wear it. It's in.
Okay,
I've already decided. That's the first one we've actually decided because we haven't made any decisions
so
yet.
you're going to have more than one then, potentially.
Oh, we're going to have more than one.
And you're going to pay for them all.
Well, I'm going to have to. That's what I said.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make money on this.
No, you're not. But it's
It's in because I want to wear the black one on a video.
Okay,
That's it.
Wow,
it's decided. Wow. Okay. Some other people have not been dunked yet. They're still standing there. The lever is still yet to be pulled. They're waiting.
Who didn't get dunked?
Well, there's others. There's the LEP Ninjas, if you remember, and Gill's Book Club. There's the.
Oh, I see. They're waiting to find out.
There's a few others that are waiting to find out. Okay, let's keep cracking on though. So number 16 is from Max from Poland. And, well, come on, you've got to have a go at describing that.
This one's crazy.
It's bonkers, isn't it?
It's kind of like a sort of geographical map of your head.
My face?
Your head.
Yeah.
Because your hair's in there and stuff.
Yeah, okay.
In kind of geographical regions, it looks like.
Okay.
Something like that.
So there's like the mouth and the chin, there's the nose, there's the sort of cheekbones.
Looks like different countries on a map.
Eyes, forehead, jaw.
But your
ear.
hair is made of a pattern of cups of tea, of a grey and black graphic.
Yep.
It all looks a bit MS Painty.
Yeah, very basic.
In a kind of very simpler way, but maybe intentionally.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Your sort of forehead is a big Union Jack.
Okay.
You've got LEP London Transport logos for eyes.
London Underground logos, those circular logos with the blue line across the middle, and it says LEP, and those are my eyes.
You've got brickwork, I assume from the background of that old logo, as your sort of chin area.
With a grey blob for my mouth.
Then there's a London bus making up your sort of side face.
Of my jaw.
And then there's a little phone box for an ear.
I've got a telephone box as an ear.
And it's really quite trippy.
It's very weird.
It looks like something out of Yellow Submarine, the Beatles film.
It's like something out of a nightmare I had once.
It's kind of psychedelic, but also quite, I don't know, not unpsychedelic, but quite sort of picture postcard. Mixed with a sort of pop art sort of style.
Very pop arty, definitely.
But it's kind of, it's quite scary.
Yes. I'm judging by that thing I said last time of would I wear this on a T-shirt, I like it, but I feel if I did wear it on a T-shirt, I might scare my daughter a little bit.
I think you would. She'd look at it and her lip would go down a bit.
Her lip would start trembling.
Yeah, like yours used to. And it kind of looks like you've got an afro, which is quite funny as well. I like that. That's a plus point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just too weird. I'll tell you what it looks like. They Live.
What's They Live?
The film They Live.
Don't know
It's a John Carpenter film, I think. And it's about where this guy finds this special pair of sunglasses where when you look through them, you can see people in society who are actually aliens.
Okay.
And also all the advertising boards and messages reveal their true messages.
Okay, right.
So just look it up. Just put the trailer in there. I can't be bothered to explain it. We're running out of time, but it looks like the aliens in They Live.
Okay, and it also looks a bit like something from Yellow Submarine, the Beatles film, which is also a plus point.
Yeah.
But I think it's just too weird and a bit bonkers. And so I'm afraid, Max, you're going to swim or learn to swim now or perish. I don't know.
I hope you pack your shark repellent.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Max, hold on. Here we go. Thanks for doing it. Nice one, mate. Good luck. Bye. Oh, dear. I feel like I'm launching them into space now
No, that's okay. Well, you could do that if you want.
Yeah. Next is number 17. This is the penultimate one. This is Sofia from Russia. She's gone for one that she's entitled "All Calm in Lepland." Calm and peaceful, right? All calm in Lepland. Okay. The picture, it's a circle, and it appears to show lots of houses, but it's probably Lapland. As she said in the message, she was inspired by a reference to Lapland, which is an area in the north of. It's like northern parts of Sweden and Norway.
It's where Father
Finland.
Christmas is.
Yeah, and Father Christmas apparently spends his time there.
Apparently, that's where he comes from.
That's where he lives and comes from. So Lapland, a very sort of, you can imagine lots of kind of cabins, cozy cabins with snow around and lots of nice little lights shining, very sort of Christmassy almost scene.
Looks like lots of little windows going up a hill of a sort of snowy, but in the dark, so you can just see the windows.
It's like a snowy, cozy winter village or something.
I really like the illustration, I have to say. I think it looks great. I wonder if she does this professionally.
It says
very good.
All calm in Lepland, it says over the top.
Yeah, I'm not that keen on the message, although it's nice. It's just
all calm in Lepland.
Could have been slightly better placed, possibly. But then again, it would look good as a poster, that one. So yes. I like it. I think that the layout more suggests poster than t-shirt to me, but I love the illustration. There's
something Art Deco about it as well, almost, with these sort of lights that are shining up, these torches. Yeah. Okay. Yes, very nice illustration and really striking. I love the cozy image, and that's a nice association. Although I think that the Lapland thing is a bit too close, because I've never. Obviously, when I say Lepland, it's obviously kind of a joke on the word Lapland, but I never think of the actual place Lapland. I don't think that Lepsters are actually in Lapland, so I don't really think of Lapland. Lepland is a different thing altogether. So that's like, a slight misunderstanding, perhaps. So
I think it looks great, but I don't think it's quite right. It's good, but it's not quite right.
Good, but it's not right.
This.
Yeah. Okay.
But again, illustration's great, and I'd like to see more work from this person.
Yes, thank you so much for sending it in and for spending the time on it. You've done really well, but I'm afraid this is as far as you're going to go today. You've got your bus money home, haven't you?
Your fish food.
your fish food. Oh dear.
Oh, this feels bad.
It feels wrong, doesn't it?
Well, we can't
There's
change
nothing we
the
can
rules
do about
now.
it. These are the rules, I'm afraid.
I'm not pulling the handle on this one.
I'll do it. I'm going to close my eyes and pull the handle. Bye. Oh dear. This is the last one.
This came in. Well, it didn't come in. You just showed me right.
No,
at the end.
this came in at some point, but I couldn't see the image, and Julie sent it back to me, so now I can see the image. So go on, James. This is the last one. This is number 18.
It's a kind of cartoony, kind of quite simple style, pink gorilla giving a thumbs up.
Yeah,
and it says "nice one." No mention of Luke's English podcast, which could be a bit confusing. But then I suppose you could just explain to people. They say, why are you wearing a t-shirt with a pink gorilla and nice one? And you could tell them why. So it's a good conversation starter. I like the gorilla's expression. He's smiling. It's, I saw it and I grinned immediately.
Yeah.
I like the look of it.
Puts a smile on your face.
It's a nice sort of magenta colour.
Yeah, I like the gorilla.
It's really appealing. And I like the fact that the text is quite downplayed, if you know what I mean, quite minimal.
Yeah.
And there's is that little emoji smiley thing as well?
Yeah, there's a little smiley.
Yeah, that's kind of quite meme-like.
Yep.
Which is not a bad thing, but it doesn't say Luke's English podcast anywhere. So ultimately, as much as I liked it, and I think it's really cute, it's a no from me.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to let James sort of, I'll just follow what James said there. But I do love it. And obviously I'm fond of the Pink Gorilla episode that I did. And so it's nice that someone has done a picture relating to that. That's always nice. But yeah, like James said, very appealing, puts a smile on your face. But again, the connection is going to be a bit... what's the word for it? A bit remote, maybe.
Tenuous.
A bit tenuous, perhaps. And again, a bit like the shrimp one, a lot of people won't immediately think Luke's English podcast, potentially, unless they are full-on hardcore long-term listeners.
Well, maybe that's it. It's just strictly for the hardcore.
Maybe. But again, I
Strictly
think
for the headstrong.
that is one of the that's one of the things though, like the t-shirt appeal, the wearability. I think a lot of podcast fans might not want to wear that, especially since it doesn't actually flag up, hey, this is a Luke's English podcast thing. So I'm afraid for that reason we will not be investing. Oh, this isn't Dragon's Den, is it? This is something else. Okay, well, we'll better pull the lever.
All right, sorry.
Oh, dear.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye, Bye, Julie. Well, James, there you go. So, well, let's just sum up. Let's recap. So the ones we're going to keep are these ones. So as I scroll back through, so we've got Silvia and Sarah's 2 images.
You're going to take both of those?
Yeah, the Luke's English Podcast Ninjas that we like and the Jill's Book Club. Guys,
Well,
you're in.
I think they're brilliant. So well done. You avoid the sharks and, big, massive props and respect.
Yes. Coming soon to a t-shirt near you. The Luke's English Podcast Ninjas and Jill's Book Club. I'm definitely making a mug of that for Mum. What else are we going to have? I am going to choose Dissecting a Frog. The LEPland Dissecting a Frog black and white image from Adel. I'm choosing that one, even though I do look bald on it. I'm gonna be what's the word for it? I'm gonna put my ego to one side and put a solid thumbs up for that. I think it would look good on a white t-shirt.
It's not my favourite, but I think it's probably the most kind of personable. No, I don't know. I don't know what word I'm looking for. I'm lost, I'm afraid. It's a bit more personal, maybe, because it just looks like you. I don't think it's been traced. I think it's been drawn.
Yes.
And I like that. It shows a bit more of the artist's hand.
Yeah.
Maybe. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. And I think all the different references, all done properly. LEPland, Ninjas, Dissecting a Frog, recording the podcast. I think all of those things hold up together. It's definite connections. It would look good on a white t-shirt. That's good enough for me.
All right, great.
Well done, Adel. You're in. Yay! Now, we've got the Ramblecast one, which is the podcast player on the front. So,
if it was up to me, I'd give this a yes.
Okay, well, it is up to you, James. You are a judge.
But I'm not the one paying for them.
Well, if they don't want it, look, the thing is, if people don't want to buy that, they just don't.
But you're going to have to pay them.
I'm not going to have to. Oh, I'll pay them prize money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if people don't buy it, then so be it. But
okay, I think that one's excellent, and I think that would be a good seller as well.
Well, it's in.
I can see more people buying that than any of the others.
That's in.
Great. Can I have one?
Yeah, sure. Of course you can.
Great. Well done. Who was sent this one in?
That was from Lenka from Slovakia.
Well done, Lenka. I think that's probably the most professional kind of up-to-date design.
Can I give a little special extra reason why this should be included? It includes on the back the list of episodes, number 497, Film Club with Nail and I, with James and Will.
Oh, man, that's I didn't notice that before.
Which was, half of it was recorded here in this very room.
Yeah, that was a bit of a drunken episode, I'm afraid.
Well, it's appropriate. But you're there, and it's with Nail and I.
That's awesome.
We also got Star Wars, the Star Wars review.
So are this her favourite episodes, possibly? Because they're not in order, are they?
I think that this is Lenka's favourite. They are. They go from the bottom and up.
Okay.
From 489 to 505.
Okay,
well, it's in. It's in.
Well done. I think...
Well done, Lenka.
Yeah, great. Good job.
Then what else have we got? Have we got any others? I think there might be one more. Let me just check.
I think that was it, wasn't it?
Scrolling.
Keep the birds rolling.
The other one was Max's X-Ray of the Luke's English Podcast logo. That's going to go in. And I think that is it. So we have Sara and Silvia. Congratulations. Hold on. I've got so many things on this Google page here that it's hard to scroll through them all. So just let me be clear. Silvia and Sara with your Jill's Book Club and LEP Ninjas. You're in. Who else? Adel from Hungary. You're in as well. Congratulations. Lenka from Slovakia with a Ramblecast t-shirt. You are also in. And one other. I didn't expect to include so many designs here, actually, I have to say. But that's fine. I think that's good. The other one is... Where is it? Andrey, not sure where you're from. but the X-ray of the logo, you're in as well. And there we have it.
Well done, everyone.
We've done it. We did it. We actually did the whole thing from start to finish. It's all done. It's all good in the hood. And we've been going for an hour and a half. So I think we should stop. What do you think?
Yeah. Maybe you should play a snippet of what I've been working on here.
We can do that.
Yeah, but we'll record that now and you can dub it in later.
While we're here, sitting here, James has got all of his gadgets in front of us.
Only got 2 gadgets at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. You've got a TD3 drum machine, and then a Boss Dr. Rhythm,
which you gave me, which you had in Japan and never used.
I don't know how I got my hands on that in Japan, but it's like an old sort of 1990s drum machine. But I gave it to James. He's very good at using all this stuff. So he's been making some what? What have you been making? Some
sort of acid house, I suppose.
Yeah. So perhaps I'll add a little bit of that at the end.
Just a little bit.
Just a tiny taste. So, obviously, listeners, if you want to get some of that merch, just go to teacherluke.co.uk/merch.
You're going to have to sell a lot to make that 300 quid back that you just spent.
I had how many £80 prizes I just gave away. This is not a profitable venture. In fact, to be honest, the T-shirts, it's not really for profit.
You've lost money, haven't you?
I've lost money. I have. But I'll make it back eventually over time.
You need a financial advisor.
I'm doing all right, I'm not bleeding money all over the place.
I know.
The T-shirt thing specifically has not been a great profit-making venture. But I knew that from the beginning, and I've always just wanted to have podcast stuff out there. I want people to be wearing the T-shirts, to have the mugs. I just want people to be able to get their hands on the stuff. And I wanted a lot of it too.
Yeah, you keep buying loads of them.
Well, I got myself a little water container, like a little flask. One of those things that you can hear, and I'm getting some wall art for my new office and some stuff. So
Groovy.
Yeah, it's all good. Listeners, thank you so much for listening to this. Leave your comments in the comments section.
And sorry for criticising your stuff that you sent in. Don't take it personally. We're just trying to be funny and probably failing. But cheers, nice one again.
I hope there are no hurt feelings out there. But everyone did really well, and at least the people who sent things in, at least who actually had the initiative to do it and send something.
Got off your arse and did something, man.
Whereas, most of the ninjas were just content to just continue to be ninjas, which is, it's just fine. That's fine. All right. Well, James, thanks a lot for being a judge.
Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Can I have some free T-shirts, please?
Yeah, I'll send you.
And can I have a large next time? Because that extra large was massive.
Oh, really?
They are quite large. They're kind of American sizing.
Yes.
It just means the clothes are bigger over there.
Yeah, just the clothes.
The clothes are quite big in America.
Not saying anything about the people.
You didn't. You could have cut that bit out.
But most of them are having a wonderful time now because they're all going, yes, because Americans, they are fat, aren't they? So don't worry.
Think there was any need for that accent either.
Okay, well, shall I
end on a downer?
End on a downer. End on an awkward moment.
Yeah.
Okay, well, James, thank you so much for being part of this.
You're welcome, and thanks for having me.
All right, listeners, thank you so much for listening. But now it's just time to say goodbye. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Hello, listeners. Those of you who are still with me, the hardcore Lepsters who have survived until the very end. We're not quite finished yet. I do just want to repeat what we said before. Thank you to the Lepsters who entered this competition. Also, I'm going to give some comments about hedging and diplomatic language, as I said in the introduction, and I'll do that in a moment. But first, congrats again to Silvia, Sara, Adel, Lenka and Andrey for being chosen by James and me. I will send you emails. In fact, I might have already done that by the time you listen to this. For those who didn't get chosen, sorry for dropping you into a pool of shark-infested water. I'm not sure why that was necessary, to be honest, but I hope you fended off the sharks and survived. And I hope you didn't mind our feedback and our criticisms of your work. I know that you probably put a lot of time and effort into those designs, and I salute you for that. Language-wise, this episode was full of nice bits of English that you could pick up, and I said this at the beginning of the episode. To make sure that you got all of it, right? All of the useful functional language, I think I would have to do a premium series about it, I think. That would take some time. And I'm still in the middle of P32, which is all about vocabulary from the Carl Pilkington episodes. So little heads up for premium Lepsters. P32 parts 1 and 2 are uploaded and they are available for you in the app and online. I think you know what to do and where to go to get those. If you don't know how to use LEP Premium, just go to teacherluke.co.uk/premium info. Okay? In any case, target language from this episode. There was descriptive language for describing the designs, and there was the language which we used to moderate our feedback. I mean, some diplomatic language, what we call hedging, which is when you add little words and phrases to soften your statements, which is a good and important thing to do if you care about the feelings of the people you're talking to. So there was plenty of this kind of hedging language, hedging or diplomatic language. This would be a great topic for a premium series, as I mentioned before. Now, if this isn't clear, if you don't really know what I mean by hedging or diplomatic language, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. So just compare the difference between saying these things. So, for example, if someone has, I don't know, if you're just giving feedback, or if someone says, here's my design, what do you think? Would you like to use it? Okay, now consider the differences between responding with these things. Simply saying no, and it's a no from me. And I'm afraid this time it's going to be a no from me. Okay, so that's the three different statements. How would those things make you feel if someone just said no? Obviously, you're going to feel a bit hurt or a bit upset or annoyed. It's a no from me. Maybe you're going to feel a little bit better. And I'm afraid this time it's going to be a no from me. It's longer. There's a lot more hedging involved in that. So basically, the message is pretty much the same in all three of those responses, more or less. But the impact on the person we're talking to should be different. So as I said, just saying no, then you're going to feel a bit hurt or annoyed or upset. I mean, it's just rude, isn't it? Now, some people might say, but Luke, this just isn't honest, like changing a statement, which is essentially saying, no, we're not going to accept your design. Changing that statement into, I'm afraid this time it's going to be a no from me. Some people might feel that this is just not honest, and people sort of say things like, if you mean no, just say no. Tell the truth. That's what people do think sometimes when you talk about diplomatic language like this. Okay, I understand. Sometimes you need to be direct and just say no. Say what you think. For example, if you need to put your foot down, or if you need to be very strong in a certain situation, or if you need to be very clear about something, if you need to take a very strong position, obviously it depends. But a lot of the time, we need to manage the relationships we have with people, and we want to maintain goodwill. That's good relations. I mean, we don't want to make other people feel bad. We don't want people to feel resentful or whatever. We want to be able to continue things and keep things smooth. Conflict resolution, this is, or at least maybe the prevention of conflict. And communication can be a large part of that. We have to watch our words carefully in certain situations. And so adding a few phrases to soften your statement can go a long way in maintaining the right relationship with the people you're talking to. It depends on the situation, of course, but in my experience, it's usually a good idea to show respect to others and to consider the impact that your words have on them. This is beneficial to everyone, especially if you want to maintain some kind of good, pragmatic relationship. This is why it's important to use language in a diplomatic way, and using certain hedging phrases or indirect structures is how we do it. Also, it's about the tone of your voice and so on. The thing is, it can be difficult to do these things. If you're using English, it can be difficult to do these kinds of, these sorts of techniques or structures or whatever. because it requires some nuance, and you need to learn the ways in which we hedge our statements. You need a lot of control over the language you're using to do these kinds of linguistic gymnastics. A lot of that's about vocabulary and grammar. There's pronunciation involved too, because that means, using your voice to soften your tone or whatever. Okay. I think this episode, the one that you've just heard, is full of hedging language. And it would be good for you to notice that and consider how it works and if you can incorporate it into your English too. So you could listen to this again if you've got that much time in your life. And let me remind you, you don't have to listen to it all in one go. You could listen to it in stages, in bits. That's probably better. It's probably better to listen to certain episodes several times rather than just listening to them all once, blasting through them all like that. You've got a lot of content to work with from me and my podcast. You will want to listen to each episode and catch me up. You'll want to listen to them all, but sometimes it is worth taking a second look. It can be very beneficial. So that was just a note about language and the kind of language you could take from this episode. Another thing I want to say at the end of the episode here is something about James's music. We said I would play a bit of the music he's been working on. Music is good, isn't it? It helps you work, rest and play. It's just generally good. So, as well as being a designer, illustrator, and all-round great guy, James is also a producer of electronic music, and you will know that if you're a long-term listener to this podcast. And when I say long-term listener, I don't just mean someone who's still listening to this episode after more than 100 minutes, probably. No, I'm talking about people who've been listening for many years. I've talked to James about his music before on the podcast. You might have heard those episodes. Episode number 243, which was called Making Tunes with My Brother. That episode springs to mind. You could listen to that one maybe if you're interested in this. But James uses an array of drum machines, synthesizers, sequencers, samplers, pedals, and effects processors to make his electronic music. So I recorded this episode with James in his flat, and he had a lot of his musical equipment, all his gear, on the coffee table in his living room. Lots of drum machines and different boxes plugged into other boxes. And he uses all these different things to make his electronic music. I play his stuff quite often in the background at the end of my episodes, actually. Have you noticed that before? Obviously, it's not going to be for everyone, but I'm sure that some of you out there will be into it. So check it out. And if you want to check it out, here is how you can do it. So if you would like to hear more of James's music, I recommend that you visit his Bandcamp page. Bandcamp, Bandcamp. Bandcamp, one word, is a streaming site for music where unsigned artists can share and sell their music. On James's Bandcamp page, which is jimthompson.bandcamp.com. On that page, you can find various stuff by him, including albums, EPs, and other releases. You can stream the music free there or support him by purchasing some of those tracks for a price of your choice. You can choose the price. So that's jimthompson.bandcamp.com. So the track he was working on at the time we recorded this episode, when he had all this stuff going on the table there, that track was eventually named Summoned, and it's the B-side to another track on Bandcamp called Mushroom Season. The track Summoned, this one does include that old 90s Boss drum machine that I picked up while living in Japan. It's a nice item. So if you like the sound of those old school 90s drum machines and minimal techno, that's just the name I'm using. I'm not completely sure what genre you would put this music into, but let's just say it's like, electronic dance music or minimal techno. If you like that kind of stuff, then check it out. Yes, the website address again, jimthompson.bandcamp.com. Summoned is the track you can hear in the background. And now I'm going to stop talking so you can hear it properly. I will let the track play out, and then you'll hear the ending jingle, as usual, to officially close the episode. Thanks for listening, everyone. All Lepsters in LEPland, Level 1 and Level 2 ninjas, frog ninjas. I still haven't worked out what they are yet, but, you're all welcome. Non-ninjas, premium people, and everyone else, including all people who simply defy categorization. You're all welcome. Thank you for listening all the way up until the end here. I will speak to you again on the podcast soon, but for now, it's just time to say goodbye. Bye, 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 bye. Thanks for listening to Luke's English podcast. For more information, visit teacherluke.co.uk.